just spotted a big school of dolphins, so we're gonna circle back around and see if we can get some footage of them. This is the last thing that a seal sees while cruising around an area like this. Oh, he's onto a fish. Whoa! We're just cruising these really deep sections of water off these rocky cliffs, and that's where the big great whites will be cruising at the moment. Okay, so we're currently staying at Airway. Now what this is it's a tiny home that's been placed along the coastline here in Port Lincoln. And the reason why we've chosen to stay in this area in particular is because out there is the South Pacific Ocean. And no doubt within the next few days of us staying here, there'll be the creature that we're actually out here to find swimming past us, the great white shark. This species can grow to lengths of over 6 meters long and weigh up to 2 tons. It's seriously one of the most magic and impressive animals that we have here down in the south end of Australia. So that's what we're going to be trying to track down for the next few days. And also this property in particular is so amazing. It's 20,000 acres along this coastline. And you know, looking up into that paddock right now, there's a bunch of emus up there. There's giant birds of prey flying past. So we're going to be exploring it for the next few days, and this is where we're staying. But what I want to do first is, because we just got out here, I want to get a bit of a lay of the land. So I'm going to get my drone up in the air, head down to the coast, down to those rocky cliffs down there, and see what animals are around this area. We might even be able to spot one of these white sharks on the drone. Yeah, such a beautiful coastline to be staying on, hey. So we're gonna get the drone up in the air and fly it up and down this little area, see what we can find. So we're just cruising these really deep sections of water off these rocky cliffs, and that's where the big great whites will be cruising at the moment. So what they're doing is they're going up and down this area and they're looking for seals and sea lions to actually hunt, because that's what they feed on around this area, because there's a real good population of them. And how they go about hunting is, if you've actually seen footage of a great white, you see the top of it is a gray color, and that's so that anything that's above it, when these great whites are down in the deep, it makes it harder to see. And obviously the bottom side of a great white is white, so they're camouflaged no matter what way you're looking at them. And they'll be sitting down 20, 30 meters deep, looking up. They've got really good eyesight, waiting for a seal to move off these rocks which they shelter on, out to the deeper section of water. And it is crazy. They shoot like a torpedo from the bottom, getting fully airborne out of the water, hitting these seals, which is why you have to be really careful going into their habitat. Now, flying this drone, it's so cool, but we can only get a certain little section of coastline covered. So tomorrow morning, we're actually going out in a charter flight and trying to see some of these great white sharks from the air. But yeah, just looking out over this area in particular, you know, maybe while we were sitting here, great whites would have been swimming past. You never know. So amazing, hey? Now, for the past few years, I've road tripped to different places around Australia, but South Australia, this is the first time I've been down here, and it's so beautiful. Such different landscape to what I was expecting as well. So many animals, and yeah, we're on the hunt right now for a certain species of lizard that I've never actually found before, the sleepy lizard or shingleback. We'll see if we can track them down. They're definitely around this area. So what we're looking for right now is probably the most iconic animal that we have here in Australia. And we've just come to the perfect habitat, these big eucalyptus trees. This is where they live. And if you haven't guessed it, we're looking for koalas.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What was that?
Koala, right there, right there. Look at it. We just heard something in the bush, and it was a koala moving along the floor. Look at him. Here, we'll get around into this place. These trees that he's in at the moment, these she oak trees, is not actually the viable habitat for these koalas to live in. They need eucalyptus because that's pretty much the only tree that they eat. And although there's hundreds of species of eucalyptus trees here in Australia, they only eat about maybe 20 of them out in the wild, which is why we need to protect habitat for these koalas. So this koala right here could be sleeping for upwards of 20 hours a day up there in the canopy, and then for the rest of that time, they're feeding. They're actually eating, which is pretty wild. It doesn't sound like a bad life at all. But yeah, such beautiful creatures, and so crazy that they're just living out here in Australia. I love seeing koalas in the wild. So it's currently late afternoon at the moment, and throughout the day we've actually been seeing wedge-tailed eagles, which is the biggest bird of prey here in Australia, and they've been cruising around this one paddock, and we were wondering why they were sticking around this area in particular, because there was about 3 of them, and we actually spotted the reason. There's actually an animal carcass, I think it's a sheep, well over that way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna chuck one of these camera traps on the sheep overnight and see if we can get some footage of these wedge-tailed eagles. Them and the white-bellied sea eagles are pretty much neck and neck, the same size birds of prey here in Australia. But there might even be other animals that come throughout the night and feed on this carcass. I wouldn't be surprised if they came back in pretty quick. So yeah, we'll chuck it on and check the footage later on in the afternoon. Look at that. He's flashing that big fleshy blue tongue at me, trying to scare me off. All right, so this is the lizard that we're looking for right here. We were just walking along the coastline and we found him. Now this is the bobtail or sleepy lizard, pinecone lizard, also known as a shingleback. They've got a few names, but this is the first one that I've ever found out in the wild. And mate, they are so cool. Now, the reason why they call them a bobtail, right, is because they've got this tail down the back there, which looks almost identical to the head, and they have that for a reason. So if a big bird of prey like the wedge-tailed eagles come along that we've actually been seeing on this trip and go to grab him, maybe they'll go for something like the tail instead of going for his head, and he might be able to get away. But they are just such a beautiful looking lizard. Now, my favorite fact about the shingleback is if you find them in pairs, it's because these guys actually mate for life. They'll find a partner and live together throughout their lives, which is a pretty beautiful thing. They're an amazing lizard and definitely one of the species that I wanted to find here in South Australia. All right, we're gonna let you be. So we just woke up really early this morning. It's the most beautiful sunrise over this place that we're staying, Airway. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna head to the airport and get a scenic flight over the coastline here in Port Lincoln, looking for big great white sharks. Should be good. We just spotted a big school of dolphins, so we're gonna circle back around and see if we can get some footage of them. So cool. So this is the area right here that we're flying over that will probably hold the best population of great white sharks around this area. Now they prefer to live out on the islands, but it's not uncommon to see them cruising along the coastline. And after talking to our pilot, he actually told us that in this area he's seen big great whites from the plane on a number of occasions, just cruising up and down the beach. Absolutely insane. But take a look at it. Two more days until we head out in the boat and dive with some great white sharks. So we decided to head out with my friends at Calypso Star Tours to go diving with some seals along the coastline. So you can see all these sea lions just taking cover up on the bank up there. Now the reason why is because out there in the deep water is big great white sharks, one of the biggest sharks in the world. Yeah, you can just see them all sleeping at the moment, all scattered along this coastline. So cool, so playful in the water as well when you're swimming with them. I think the more that you move around, the more that they're intrigued. Honestly, one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had with an animal out in the wild, but I think tomorrow might be even better. Let's see if we can find some great white sharks. So we're just heading out at the moment, getting out to these islands which hold these great whites. Now the reason why they're out there is because because there's a big seal colony that actually lives off those islands. I think it's about 40,000 individual seals that actually live there, and that's what these great whites are feeding on. But yeah, it's pretty rough at the moment heading out there, but still such a cool trip, and fingers crossed we'll be able to see some great whites. So those islands over that way are the Neptune Islands. Now it's so crazy to think that beneath us and over there there's just big sharks swimming around, but what we're going to do is we're going to get over there, get in the cage and see if we can find any. Oh, he's onto a fish. Yeah, film this. Oh, tuna that they just caught downstairs. Everyone on the boat's actually going to eat some fresh sashimi, and I think the rest they might even be feeding to the sharks. I'm not too sure yet. But yeah, we've got a pretty cool crew on board today. It'll be cool to see what unfolds. So that's Neptune Islands.
Yeah, this is North Neptune Island.
Yeah, and how many islands are there actually?
There's 2 here,
Two.
and then there's South Neptune, which is also 2 islands.
Yeah, cool.
Another 5 or 6 miles further south.
How deep were you? 22 meters.
Yeah.
Do you ever see the sharks?
You just see
On
a red
this?
blob.
Red blob?
Yeah.
So what are these things here?
Kingfish, trevally,
Yeah,
sharks.
Sharks, could be sharks.
Could be sharks.
Such a wild feeling knowing that swimming beneath the boat right now is an animal as powerful as a great white, and you see straight away why these sharks are here. The long-nosed fur seals absolutely cover the rocks, very few venturing into the water, and for good reason. So this is an exact replica of about a 3 or 3.5 meter great white shark, and it's crazy. You can see at the bottom jaw right there they've got rows of rolling teeth. Now, because our teeth are actually secured into our bones, great white sharks are actually secured into a much softer material, so they're constantly replacing them. But yeah, this is the last thing that a seal sees while cruising around an area like this. Pretty crazy. Now, believe it or not, this is not actually considered a big great white shark. They can get meters bigger than this. I'm pretty sure the biggest one spotted around this area is around 5 meters long, which is just a huge animal. They're whiting, bro.
Yeah, guppies. They look like sharks. Yeah, exactly. That's the
And this was it. After driving from Queensland down to Tasmania, then across to Port Lincoln, it was time to hop in the cage, and we hadn't actually seen any sharks yet. But as soon as we jumped in, the first white shark appeared, followed by another one. The thing about these sharks, right, because there's no barriers out there in the ocean, these great whites can be found off pretty much every country on Earth. besides the waters around Antarctica and the Arctic Ocean. So these sharks that we're seeing today are not actually resident sharks to the Neptune Islands, but it is a known area that some sharks will pass through and have been known to stay for days, weeks, and even months, feeding off these long-nosed fur seals before they keep moving on. I tell you what, you've definitely pulled a short straw in life if you're one of the 40,000 or more resident seals on these islands. But yeah, being this close to these big great white sharks was so amazing. One of the most incredible experiences that I've ever had. Take a look at the size of them. Alright, so it's one of the last days of our trip here in South Australia, and what we're actually doing is we're on the edge of the Great Australian Bight at the moment as that goes over to WA, and what we're going to be doing today is heading up this beach, doing some exploring and trying to get some bush tucker. We'll get out here and have a look. Right, so we're here with my mate Lunch from Australian Coastal Safaris, and what are we doing today, mate?
Well, mate, we're doing a bit of hunting and gathering for you. I want to show you some of our backyard that a lot of people don't come to see whilst they're in the country. So just out here behind us, Southern Ocean here, we're going to jump in and try and hunt for some sea snail or the abalone. Cook them up for you, and you'll be able to get to see how they taste straight out of the shell, straight out of the ocean. And that'll set us up for the afternoon, I reckon. And this little cove right here also has big stingrays in it. Big stingrays, heaps of other marine species out here. There's King George whiting, there's trevally, there's flathead, there's mullet. No great white sharks, I hope? Well, mate, I'll tell you what, this is their domain as well, but I've been here all my life. I've never seen one. Yeah. It's the one you don't see, so you've got to be careful of. So hopefully today isn't that day. Yeah. There's a lot of rockfish here as well, and reef fish. So yeah, no, it's a bit of a bounty for the ocean here, and it's we should get in it. I'm starting to sweat. Yeah, let's get in there, mate. All right. See if we can get a few abalone. Perfect. That's a great one, mate. Yeah. It's a beauty. Yeah. Successful mission. These are the abalone that we were just out there diving for. First time I've done it, but it's so cool. Water was a bit murky, so it's a bit sketchy because we know that great white sharks are swimming along this coastline. But yeah, this is the green one right here and the black one. And what they are is they're actually sea slugs. They're in the sea slug family. Tough. And that's it. That's it. And how much would all of these be worth if you bought them in the shop? Well, to buy them in a shop, divers will get, you know, around about 160 bucks a kilo for the greens. Really? Yeah, and around about 140 for the black. So what we just do here, we just trim that off, and then we just A bit more. There we go.
Just making our way to a place that we can actually cook up these abalone and also get some lines out there, try to catch some salmon off the beach. So I think we're just heading down this little track right now, gonna pull out onto the sand and yeah, park up, make a little fire.
So this is the black lip abalone.
Yeah.
What are we thinking? You've never had this before?
Never.
So an hour ago, this was just basking at the bottom of the ocean.
I can't really describe what it tastes like.
I was going to ask you what it tastes like. I reckon it tastes like abalone.
Maybe a bit like calamari, but different taste to it. Different taste.
Similar.
Yeah.
Here we go there.
There we go. How good is that? Big salmon? Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's massive. Hold him up, mate. That's not a bad one at all, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So we'll cook that one up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Last cast. Let's get a big dog. All right. Oh. Whoa.
Doesn't like it.
There we go. Oh, there he goes, right between your legs. And that's it. So I'm actually back on the sunny coast at the moment. We finished up our road trip. It was about 5 weeks all up, leaving from the Sunshine Coast, going down to Tasmania, across to Port Lincoln, and then back up home. We managed to tick off so many new species that I've never seen before, and I'm so grateful to everyone. One thing that I noticed on this road trip was that Everyone is so lovely down in Tasmania and over in Port Lincoln, and it's what you want when you're road tripping around, because a lot of these road trips I'm actually by myself. So yeah, I can't recommend visiting Port Lincoln enough. It's definitely a place that should be on the top of everyone's bucket list. So yeah, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Port Lincoln Hotel. They hooked me up with a few nights there. Lovely staff, great location, overlooking the big bay in the middle of Port Lincoln. If you go down those ways, I definitely recommend checking out that place. And of course, Calypso Star Tours helping me actually see not only those great white sharks, but those seals that we went snorkeling with. And again, the whole crew was absolute legends. We were laughing the whole time on the boat. And just that experience in general, seeing great white sharks, this huge animal, when you get in the water with them, you truly realize how big they are up close. It's definitely something that should be at the top of everyone's bucket list, and just another reason to go down to South Australia. And I'd also love to thank Airway for letting me stay there for a few nights. So that's that little tiny home that was on that coastline down in Port Lincoln. I mean, that place speaks for itself. We saw Wedge-Tailed Eagles, koalas, shinglebacks, emus, and that was all in the vicinity of that little tiny home. So yeah, if you want to stay in that exact tiny home or one of the other ones on that property, definitely go check them out. And a massive thanks to their family and kids for letting me stay there. Lincoln Air Charter and Scenics, that was actually such a fun morning going out looking for great white sharks. We saw tuna, heaps of dolphins. You can see whales and have the chance to see sharks from up in the air. But yeah, just flying over those beautiful changing coastlines, one of the coolest things that I've ever done. And last but definitely not least was Australian coastal safari tours. So my mate Lunch and his family who took me out went diving for those abalone. You can do all different sorts of tours. They can tailor make a tour for you. But if you're not sure of what you want to do while you're down in South Australia, definitely go check them out, because you can see heaps of different sorts of animals. I mean, those abalone that we cooked up are worth hundreds of dollars, and we were just grabbing them off the floor. But yeah, literally everyone that we met down in South Australia were absolute legends. So keen to go back there. Huge thanks to you, Damian, for making this trip possible. And yeah, I'm so keen to come back down and see you all. Links for all of those places will be in the description if you want to go check it out. New videos every week. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a pretty epic one. For me, definitely. I'm so glad that I got to go down there and film it. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week in the next adventure. We got a heap of other cool videos coming up from this trip as well.